Hello, Power Achievers. I'm Pat Council, and on Designing Your Life today, the question is, can you achieve your goals without your purpose? Well, the quick answer is absolutely. So why are we talking about this today? We're still on our Summer Success Series track, where I'm sharing information to enlighten and inspire you and to help you either get back on track or stay on track or really take things up a notch when it comes to achieving your goals. So I decided to take a little break from giving you a task, and because your last task was to bring order to your environment. And we talked about the fact that it is your physical environment, meaning your house, your work area, your mental environment, and emotional. So anything that you need to bring order to, take these few days and do that before we go to our next task. But in the meantime, let's keep getting inspiration. I wanted to talk about this because sometimes people say, I don't know what it is I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I'm called to do. And as a result, they don't set goals. They don't focus on achieving anything. This even includes the smaller goals, such as maybe buying a new car, earning more money, or getting a new house, or even just basically starting a business or becoming an independent contractor of some kind. You don't have to know what your purpose is to achieve the goals that you set. You only have to have the desire to achieve the goals. I've talked about this on some of my previous episodes where I talked about the fact that you don't have to worry about the how. We're not all the same, and we don't all come to the same conclusions at the same time. And we have different callings on our life. Now, recently, I heard something. And someone was talking and they were sharing, and this is a big time guru, and he was sharing and he says, you know what? There's no such thing as a purpose. You don't have to waste time finding your purpose. And he says, well, what you should be looking for is to understand what is your duty. What is it your duty to fulfill? And I thought, oh my goodness, here we go with the semantics again. Your duty on this earth is the same as your purpose or your calling. And I thought, okay, if you fulfill your purpose for being here, or you carried out the duty for which you were put here on this earth, that still is a purpose. That means you've accomplished something. So, because if you stop and think about it, I decided to look up the word purpose. And basically what it means is the reason why something is made, done, or exists. So why do you exist? Why are you here? Now, sometimes people will toil over that. And they think that whatever their purpose is, it has to be something that is huge, something big, or something that we consider to be big. And I've talked about this also on previous episodes a long time ago, and where I compared being a fireman or a fire worker to a movie star. And movie stars are very visible. And a lot of times we know who they are, and if they're good, people will flock to the theater to see their movies, or they'll pay to see it on television, or whatever the case is. But they know who that person is, and they think, wow, this person is amazing if they like their movies. On the other hand, when a fire worker, we don't know who they are. We're not thinking, oh my goodness, you are a fire person or a fire worker. How exciting. And well, some people might say that, but most people don't. They go, okay, so you're kind of a civil servant, you're first responder, and we're grateful. But here's the thing. Everything is relative. It's relative to what's needed at that time. If you need some entertainment, yes, you want to see your favorite movie star. But if your house catches on fire, all of a sudden the biggest star in the game is that fire worker and the other ones that come with the fire worker. So with that being said, when you're looking for a purpose, it's not something that you have to look very far for. You just have to pay attention to your life. And sometimes it is important that you work to achieve a goal, and it will allow you to kind of stumble into this purpose or calling or your duty for being here on this earth. And so it's not something that you want to make a big deal about. If you and people go, I wish I knew what my purpose was. Now, you guys also know I have my own theory about that. I think that people know what they love doing or what they're called to do, except that they're different cases. In other words, sometimes they know, but they don't want to acknowledge it, because if they acknowledge it, then they also have to acknowledge the fact that they are doing a job or doing something that they're not called to do. And they realize that whatever they're called to do, it's scary. Sometimes it's scary if a person goes after something they really love and they automatically start to think that they're going to fail, then they don't want to even make an attempt at getting started with that. Listen, there's nothing wrong with having some mishaps or what we call failures. There's something wrong with falling down or failing, if you will, and never ever getting back up to do something. At least you've discovered what it is you're good at or what it is you're not good, the thing at which you're not good. And so think about that. So why am I saying, or the question is, can you achieve your goals without your purpose? Yes. Start out with basic goals as they pop into your mind. Understand this. We're built by design to win. That's how we're structured as human beings. And I feel sad that a lot of people don't realize that. They think they have to rely on the government to do their thinking, and they think they have to rely on some politician. And the sad part about it is they took a step back. Politicians, they are loaded. They're rich, most of them. I haven't met one that's poor these days. And they understand how things work. And so they're making things work to their favor. And it's sad because they're really also supposed to be civil servants. Just saying. But let's press on. But the point that I'm making is, when you step into a goal, you stop floundering around and thinking, oh no, I don't know if this goal is centered around my purpose. The object of the game is if it's something that you're excited about, or an idea that came to your mind, or something, even something that you want, a basic material goal that you desire to have, it's leading you towards something. Back in 2016, I wrote a book called Start Winning, How to Achieve like the Top 8%. And when I wrote that book, in the beginning, I talk about setting goals. And sometimes you have to back into your material goals and in order to find a bigger purpose. And so I had a person who was who looked at the book, and this was an editor of a company that produced Christian books. And one of the things she told me is, well, you shouldn't talk about materialistic things. And you shouldn't talk about material gain in the book, because we don't want people to think that that's all there is. And I said, well, you should probably actually read the book, or at least read to the second page, because the point I was making in the beginning of that book is that even if you don't know your purpose, even if you don't know what you're called to do, start with, sometimes, because we're not all the same. Some people grow up knowing what their purpose is. They're so passionate about it, and they just want to go and do whatever that thing is. But then there are other people who have actually been talked out of their goals. And when they were kids, and they were saying it was unrealistic. And I'm thinking of someone in particular in mind who, when he was growing up, he was told that the goal that he had about having cartoons on television at night was ridiculous. And now you can have cartoons 24 hours a day. So it wasn't a ridiculous idea. And the point is, he stuffed it down, put that goal away, or that idea, And as a result, it did happen. He was not the person who did it. And he ended up doing things and working, doing jobs that he absolutely does not like to this day. And so I always tell him, it's still not too late to change. But the point that I'm making is he pushed down what his true purpose was. Now, and there are other people, there are other reasons. Some people are just flat out late bloomers when it comes to discovering what their purpose is. Sometimes you have to kind of stumble into that purpose. You have to go, wow. For example, if someone takes a job and they go, oh my goodness, I didn't think I was going to like this job, but I love it. And I want to turn this into a business. I think I can make it better. So the point that I'm making is, when you set a goal and you go for the goal and you start to achieve the goal, no matter how small that goal is, it is going to expand your thinking. Because the minute you achieve that goal, you're not going to want to achieve on that same level. You're going to want to go to the next level. I would say 30 years ago, someone told me I would be talking about doing life with power because you're built by design to win and designing your life today. And that I would be a speaker, and a podcaster and an author and coaching people, life coaching, business coaching. I would not have believed them because I was not headed towards the direction of being an entrepreneur or being a business owner. Now, the whole speaking thing, I just thought it would be something I would do for fun because I've been kind of speaking off and on at different places since I was about, 8 or 9 years old. But that was not something that I thought I would end up doing. As a matter of fact, once I left the military, I kind of put a lid on that whole speaking thing. And people would ask me if I would come and share and talk about certain subjects. And I would say no, and I would tell them, yeah, I'm not a speaker, but you know what? It was my gift. So why am I sharing this with you? I'm telling you that it is important that you understand that in order for you to do life with power and recognize that you are built by design to win, that you know that you don't have to have all of the answers, that you just need to decide on, even if it's the tiniest goal, that, you know what, I've set this goal and I'm going to make this goal happen. And when you start to make that goal happen, that mind expands. And I tell you, all of a sudden, you start to realize how capable you are. And all of a sudden, inside, I think the Holy Spirit, because our spirit knows, why we're here. Okay. And all of a sudden, we start to hear from our spirit. And our spirit starts to let us know, hey, this is why you're here on this earth. So it's important not to overthink it. But it is important that you do have some kind of focus or a goal of some kind. So what is your goal? Whatever it is, stop floundering around it. Make the decision that you're going to stop floundering and then just keep moving. And if you say, well, I'm stuck, keep moving. And if you're stuck, if you are really excited about achieving that goal and you keep moving, and the part where you're stuck because you don't know which direction to move in, then you will be prompted and opportunities will present itself, or the right person will come along, or you'll listen to a podcast, this one, or maybe some other podcast, or you'll see something on YouTube or somewhere, and it will help you get the answer as to why you're stuck so you can become, unstuck. So think about these things. The point that I'm making is you can achieve goals without a purpose. Now, you say, well, if that's the case, why do I need to know my purpose, or why do I need to operate within my purpose? Because that's where your fulfillment comes in, number one. And fulfillment is not just about you feeling a sense of accomplishment. See, fulfillment is also about fulfilling an obligation, completing an obligation. God put everyone here for a reason. So what makes me say that? The Bible tells us that we are God's workmanship, for we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. And there are several other scriptures that points to that fact that we each have a purpose. But what I'm saying to you is that whether you know your purpose or not, you still want to have a goal. Now, here's another reason, and then we're going to wrap up. Another reason why you want to have the goal and walk in that goal is because if you follow through on like even the tiniest goal and accomplishing that goal, your creativity jumps into the game. And that's how we're created. We're created in the image of God. This means we're made to be creative because we're made in his image. So if you're made to be creative, why do you need creativity if you don't have a purpose? It's not just so you can, let's say, earn lots of money, buy lots of cars, buy several different houses, although there is nothing wrong with that. Okay, if you earned it, you can do whatever you want with your money. But the point I'm making is you have to understand that all of the gifts that you've been given, they are, yes, so you can have a great life, but also so that you can deliver whatever, let's say, gifts or calling that you have, such that you can help others' lives to be better or to just serve your purpose. So if you're having problems knowing what your purpose is, then, as I said, stop floundering around. What is that one goal that you would like to achieve? So I guess I'm going to give you a little task, but this one is easy. This won't interfere with you organizing and bringing order to your living space, bringing order to your mental and emotional spaces. However, it's very small. What is that tiny little goal that you set this year? Or if you say, well, I've set no goals, what tiny goal can you set right now? See, understand this. If it's a tiny goal, you don't need a full year to complete it. Okay. You just need to be excited about it. And you need to imagine that it's possible for you. And so what is that goal? And is it written down? And if it isn't, write it down. That's the task. That's it. And promise yourself that you're going to achieve that goal. And whatever ideas come with that, pay attention to those ideas. You may want to consider journaling those ideas because you will see the direction that you're going in. I can look back in my journal. Let's say I have several journals, and I can look back in a journal that I had 10 years ago, and I can see the path and that I'm supposed to go in. And so you want to, and it started with some very basic things. And I will tell you this, here's a caveat. I always have to give you guys a little caveat because people think, okay, if I write this goal down and I'm going to achieve this goal, then I'll discover my purpose and everything is going to be smooth sailing. I want to say this to you. Part of you stepping into your purpose, it does not mean that everything is going to run smoothly because you'll have to learn some new things. You may have to let go of some people out of your life. And I'm talking about friends and things of that nature. You may have to separate yourself from them. And there may be other changes that will upset your life. However, the beautiful part about having that kind of chaos is that once you know a purpose, you will bring some order to that chaos so that you can follow through on that purpose. And your goals will become bigger and bigger. And you will see how amazing and magnificent your life can be. So it's important that you do this for yourself, if no one else. And without going like deeply into this, and maybe one day I will, but I just want to say this to you. You were sent here to carry out a purpose. You can call it a duty, different duties. You can call it a calling. You can call it whatever you want, but it is your reason for being. And you were entrusted with that. You were entrusted with that gift, with that talent. And sometimes because we come into, let's say, the real world with humans, and as human beings, we have a tendency to give our opinions where they're not asked for, unsolicited opinions. And we're talking people out of their calling. This is why I always tell people, listen, don't tell people when you come up with some grand idea of something that you want to do because you feel led to do it, you don't have to announce it to the world. And this is like real firsthand experience, a firsthand experience. You know, I had to learn that. And I've seen people who did that. As a matter of fact, I had a friend and he would always tell people, oh, I'm writing a book, or oh, I'm going to do this and I'm doing that. And then he would always ask me, well, what are you working on? And I would say, well, I might work on a book. And he would want to know, well, what's the book about? You know, let's share. And because you never share. But I explained to him, I said, listen, the reason I don't share is because I'm not ready to share. It's kind of like an artist who's painting a picture. A lot of times they don't want people to see it before it's done. Okay, because that interrupts the flow of their creativity when it's half done and people look at it and go, ooh, what is that? And they give some opinion and they don't know what they're talking about. So the point that I'm making, you guys, is pick the small goal, pick a goal, look at your goals, and don't overthink it. Just make the decision that you're going to follow through. Make the decision you're not going to flounder around, and make the decision that you're going to keep moving. Anytime you get stuck, you can reach out. There's so many people who can actually help you. And as Tony Robbins always says, success leaves clues. Look for people who have a track record, who's been there, done that. Okay, who knows what it feels like to succeed, who knows what it feels like to have some failures along the way and to bounce back. Look for these kinds of people because they have a certain level of wisdom when it comes to helping you get unstuck. With that being said, that's all I have to share for you today. But I want to remind you, make sure you stay on track and get things in order, because we're going to have some, as I said to you a couple of days ago, we're going to have some downloads for you, and you're going to have to start writing some things down, and you want to have clarity when it's time to do that. In the meantime, write down your small task if you haven't set a goal. And if you have set a goal and you have several, put a circle around the one that you definitely are committed to achieving this year. And do life with power, knowing that you're built by design to win.